All right, welcome to another episode of the BlenderNest podcast. I used to say what episode number it is, but I've lost track. So that's cool. We're all here. We recorded a bonus episode yesterday, so CG Matter, you can tell us that that's going to be up by the time this is up, but it should be for this month.
Hopefully.
Yeah, so that's going to be up. And we talked about a bunch of great topics. They're always very laid back, and those are my favorite. So we have that up. So today, what I want to ask you guys is, so everybody when they're young, whether they want to admit it or not, starting out as an artist, there's an artist or several artists that you imitate before you kind of find your way as an artist. And I was wondering for you guys, who was y'all's, and I'll name mine as well after y'all, who was that artist or artist that really, that was your first initial big inspirations that you found?
Do you guys know Freddie Wong, Freddie W?
Yeah. I love Freddie Wong.
So that and I guess Corridor Digital a bit used to be something I used to watch every week. I'm like, oh, this is some really cool VFX. They take some video game and just kind of make a little story about it. Most of them were video game based because I guess that's what was popular. But that's where I saw a lot of this 3D integration stuff, and I thought it was so cool. And then Video Game High School came out, and that was even cooler. And then they stopped being cool. I don't know what happened. He stopped making good stuff. Sorry, but
Video Game High School was incredible.
Yeah, it was so good. I rewatched it over and over and over again. And that's and he had a tutorial channel. That's the important part. He had a channel called Freddie W2, and that's where I'm like, oh, I guess After Effects is a thing, and that's where I picked it up. And then that's how I hopped on 3ds Max the first time until I switched over. But that was my biggest inspiration.
Was there anything you did, any specific things that he did that you were like, I'm going to do that, and you did it a bunch? Or
have you seen the Blue Ball Machine video where he cloned himself and threw objects between his clones and stuff?
I don't remember that one.
Well, basically, he had a video where he took the basic, super easy cloning effect, left screen, right screen mask, and he made it so much more complicated. And that was something I tried to imitate and have throw an object between one clone to another, which is actually a pretty complex thing. And I tried to imitate that, and of course, all the muzzle flash, blood spurt stuff too.
Oh man, I did that. I did that stuff in Premiere. Muzzle flashes, which were very bad.
How did you do that? Did it have transparency?
I think I went in Photoshop and etched out the black parts because of my lack of knowledge.
I did this in MS
had it
Paint.
one frame, and so I would go pow, and then one frame, and then the perspective was certainly very terribly off. But
yeah, he inspired
when I was younger,
so many people.
Yeah, when I was younger, the amount of videos I would just go in the woods and set up my tripod and run over somewhere and go whack, and then I would have this terrible muzzle flash. But that was my old filmmaking days.
We submitted a high school project at the time, and I was inspired by Freddie Wong, so we submitted this overly violent thing. And before we played it, people were advised to if they don't want to see it, you can go out of the room. But yeah, we had all the blood spurt stuff in a high school class.
Oh man, we didn't have trigger warnings at all. We're just yeah, we're gonna watch it. We're like, oh my god, we're traumatized. I watched that.
In terms of inspiration, because I've been doing all sorts of stuff in creative technical fields for a long time, it's hard to think of some of the earlier ones. But I know that around 2016, when I started getting proper into 3D artwork, and especially hard surface, one of the main driving inspirations was Paul Pepera, who's one of the co-founders of System Era, who made the Astroneer game. But he's one of the best hard surface modelers I've ever seen, but sadly he passed away a couple of years ago. But his stuff was amazing, and still it holds up as some of the best stuff on ArtStation in my opinion. But there was some key things that he was doing before anyone else, which was using the Marvelous Designer cloth in combination with hard surface elements. And I remember seeing, I think, some of his stuff in the 3D Artist magazine as well, and just being whoa, and studying it and then trying to copy it in some ways. And so that was one that really stands out to me.
Back in those days, were you using Blender to do that kind of stuff?
Yes, yeah.
How long did it take you to sort of grasp the concepts that you were at least seeing him doing?
I don't know, because a lot of it was imitation, not using the exact same techniques. So it was a lot of trial and error. But this was also the time when I started experimenting with hard ops as well, because that was out at the time. And I was watching a few Gleb tutorials back in the day as well. And that was actually, I think, some of the most enjoyable times as well, because I really enjoyed experimenting and then figuring out something that looked sort of right and then going, yes, like I've figured out this technique, I'm going to use that for everything now. But obviously that's not really how things turn out. But that sequence of discovery was really helpful, I think, early on.
What kind of projects did you eventually like apply that kind of knowledge to when you were learning it?
I did like a sequence of weird hard surface pieces of artwork, and I think there's one still up on my art station that I really like. It was like a contemporary spaceship type thing. So it had like this sort of rounded cockpit, but it had almost like wood plank, like back end, like wing type things to it. I really liked the idea of that because I was looking at some architectural references as well, and I was thinking if only there's a way to combine like this contemporary style with these traditional hard surface things. I thought that was really cool. So I had a lot of fun doing that sort of stuff. But that was all like just a personal portfolio passion project type thing.
How long ago was that?
That was roughly 2016, I think, or like the second half of 2016 going 2017-ish. So
Okay,
I enjoyed that.
I have not touched. I've only been doing 3D for maybe 2 years.
Mm.
So I wish I started a long time ago, when a lot of you started, but we're here.
Yeah, but before that, I would say, because I have done 3D for quite a while beforehand, but before that, it was just a lot of like the modding scene. So I was playing around a lot with the Elder Scrolls and Fallout type games and stuff. And at that point, it was just like, okay, let's just make some really crummy, blocky models of things that we like. And there was no real inspirations in terms of other artists, just a lot of experimenting. But by the time 2016 came about, I'd just released a game, and that was when I was like properly sitting down and thinking, okay, maybe I want to do this for a job. And then that's the time when I was like starting to look at other artists and study what they were doing as well.
All right, who's next?
I'll go. Yeah. It's. I suppose I got into the sort of art scene of fantasy art and sort of sci-fi. And originally, when I first got into that, there's this guy called Ken Kelly. I don't know whether any of you have heard of him.
Not sure.
But he's a fantasy artist, and he did loads of sort of book covers and things like that. And it's kind of 80s, 90s. So this is like 25 years ago. And my brother used to collect the sort of trading cards of some of his paintings.
Okay.
I used to just love sitting there and going through them all because they were just so awesome. And that really got me sort of thinking, right, that's the career that I want. And I suppose I haven't really got any specific 3D artists.
I'm just asking like artists in general. It doesn't have to be Blender or 3D related at all.
But yeah, so that's kind of where it started. Geiger as well, with aliens and stuff.
Yeah,
I thought that was pretty immense, really. What he did, and then from there, I remember one really sort of key moment for me was, I don't know whether anybody's seen it, that an alien dancing to "I Will Survive."
Yes. Where like the seat would knock over.
I can't remember it fully, but I remember.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah, it was like a disco.
Yeah, that was sort of a pinnacle moment for me, thinking, "Wow, that's amazing!" And this was a guy doing it sort of in his living room ish, and he got a job at Disney or wherever it was. I don't know where the heck
he went to Pixar.
It was Pixar, yeah.
He was at Pixar,
and that's it. Yeah, and I thought, wow, maybe I can do this, and that was like, right, I'm going for it. This is happening. And then
I found it. Oh man, it's wow.
Yep.
Your copyright strike. You're talking about this, right?
Yes, that.
Yes.
Wow, it looks so much different than my memory.
Yeah, that he actually started. He started Animation Mentor also with a few other guys. So he's one of the principal. I think he's one of the principal founders of Animation Mentor.
That video's 12 years old.
Yeah,
that's crazy, isn't it?
Wow. Wow, I haven't even thought about that in so long.
Yeah, he did that in Animation Master. That was a program. The Hash brothers put that out. It's a really cool little app. It was a pretty robust program. A lot of hobbyists and animators use it, but it was really good for animation. Character work was they really streamlined it for that. So anyway, keep going.
Yeah, so that's kind of the end of my story anyway.
Yeah, I would say like Giger, alien stuff, definitely. Bern Hogarth was a fantasy illustrator. I think he started School of Visual Arts in New York too, or was one of the people who started that. I'm pretty sure. Don't quote me on that. But yeah, he was one of them. And now I can't remember the guy that you just showed. He was definitely one of them because I had Animation Master. I had bought it after like going to a trade show and like I think it was like Martin, one of the brothers, had sold me on it. I'm like, yeah, this is awesome. I'm gonna pick it up, and I got it, and then I started working with it and doing little character stuff, and that was fun. And I never really carried the character stuff on from there, but it was really fun. And then watching in the mid '90s Star Trek Voyager, and the work that was being done by Foundation Imaging, and then Digital Muse, and then Eden Effects. All that work was phenomenal. And I mean, I can't say names other than Ron Thornton from Foundation, but you know, a lot of the people that were influential. And then there was Larry Schultz, who rest in peace. He passed away a number of years ago. And he was called the Spline God on CG Talk, which I believe became ArtStation. Yeah, there was he was one that actually met him later on when I moved to LA. And there were a number of people, especially in the Lightwave community. William Vaughn was one. I sat down with him in New York for like 2 or 3 hours at a trade show. It was just almost one-on-one. He was just showing me his whole workflow, and it revolutionized me. And seriously, like 3 hours, my work just improved tremendously. Like wow. I went home, I got back on my computer, and it was just night and day. So that guy, like, he's phenomenal.
Sounds like he needs to make a course.
Yeah, you know what? Somebody had told me. Somebody commented on my channel a few months ago that he actually was doing like a YouTube thing he was doing some stuff. I guess he was working for Moto, and and he actually was doing some stuff on YouTube. So you can look William Vaughn. He used to go by the name Proton on CG Talk, and he's really good. Really cool character stuff. And then there was another guy, Todd Grimes, who he used to have a studio called Evil Plan down in San Diego, and he used to do really, really cool character work. And he would do this thing with what we would call emission in Blender. I think it was called iridescence or something. Not iridescence. Now I'm dating myself, but it was really cool. He would like bring up the emission just enough to make the characters like fake global illumination or fake subsurface scattering, and it just looked beautiful at the time. Mm. So he was really, really cool.
Is the word irradiance you were trying to think of?
Yeah, radiance. I think it was called radiance. No, it wasn't radiance. It was
irradiance.
Irradiance. Thank you. Yeah, irradiance. I think it was called in Lightwave. Yeah, it might have been that. Anyway, so he was one of my influences too, and it was really cool. So I had quite a few, and then I just kind of rolled from there. And I was pretty active on CG Talk. This is years and years ago, probably like late '90s and through like 2005. And now, I'm sorry.
Sorry, continue. I have a question.
Yeah, now it's all kind of gone away, and that's ArtStation and Reddit and all these different channels and YouTube and things.
So in terms of like the online world, like you were just talking about, when you were just starting out, mm-hmm. Like what year generally, like how long ago did you start out with 3D?
I did my first render at a Pavre, 1998.
What was the online world of like 3D community? What did that look like back then? I'm curious.
It was almost no. There really wasn't anything. Like you could go find tutorials. Like there were some people out there putting up like written tutorials that you'd have to follow. And then there were basically software manuals, and then some magazines started showing up, like 3D World out of the UK, which cost like $15 here, but by the time it was imported, there was the game development magazines are starting to put out 3D tutorials and things. There really wasn't like YouTube, none of that stuff. Like, yes, thank you, perfect.
There you go, still running 3D World.
Oh yeah, probably cost you like $3 there. Yeah. And it was awesome. So when those magazines came around, it was great. But before then, you really had to dig.
How did it grow from there? Like when you saw, like I'm sure there were online. Do people even use forums anymore? Like, was there a bunch of like big forums that you would go on back in the day?
Yeah, there were. There was some like CG Talk was a great forum. High End 3D was another one that was phenomenal. There was 3D Total had a forum, and they were great because people, it would be like Reddit. Reddit pretty much is what those forums were now. And I mean, I see forums for certain things. Certain industries still have forums going, but for the most part, like I go on CG Talk now, it's still there, but like you'll get a response like in 5 days or something from somebody who just happens to go, hey, I remember that site. But I think they were bought by Ballistic, and then Ballistic I think created ArtStation or something.
Yeah, maybe I'm wrong, I think so. Yeah.
I think that was the evolution of it. But yeah, there really wasn't anything. And if I had more foresight, I'd be a millionaire right now. But I was more focused on doing good 3D work and getting getting a career in 3D than I was like running a business, making the art station or something. But
Yeah, I feel very late to the entire 3D game.
you're not
Any of that stuff.
It's really, honestly, it's still in its like childhood. It really is.
Yeah.
Like with VR, I mean, if you just watch Ready Player One. Have you seen it? Have you guys seen Ready Player One?
I
Yeah.
haven't seen it, but I've watched a bunch of clips on YouTube of it.
Yeah, just watch the movie, like, and you'll be like, okay, we haven't even broken the seal yet.
What was so amazing about the movie?
It's just a whole world where you're just gonna need so much content to fill. Like, once virtual reality hits, if it goes in that direction, which I feasibly could, like, there's gonna be such a need for optimized 3D, and as computers get faster and servers get faster, and algorithms get better, man, it's just gonna be there's gonna be such a need for that in the future. I think.
Yeah.
That there's scanning stuff is only going to go so far. Like, you're going to need people to actually create stuff that doesn't exist.
Well, if the world gets quarantined, for another year, we might go that direction.
VR could really pick up out of this.
Yeah.
They stop mass producing the ventilators and instead mass produce headsets.
Exactly. Yeah, they're gonna change up their tooling just to do some headsets. You watch the vastness of that world. There's no end.
Yeah, I don't watch that movie.
It's worth it.
Yeah.
I like the book better, but yeah, it was really good movie. I thought, and the visuals. I mean, honestly, commercials are going that direction. The web is going that direction. Virtual reality is going that direction. Augmented reality. I mean, how many of you saw people walking into fountains and walking into pools playing Pokemon? Pokemon Go, right? I don't think anyone's late to the game, but that's my opinion. So anyway, I yield the floor.
Yeah, I saw a tweet. Someone said, he said, man, I miss the days where people would be walking around looking for invisible Pokemon. We can't do that now. We'll see when we can go back to that. Oh yeah, now it's my turn. Before any kind of 3D, because I'm still very new to 3D, I was in photography and videography. And kind of the thing that actually, I used to just be a regular kid hanging out with the kids in my neighborhood, and eventually got bullied, so I just stayed at home all day. And then through a period of just being on the internet, I'm gonna backtrack before that, when I was still when I went outside. Do any of you remember Ryan Higa on YouTube?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. I loved his channel. He was my favorite person ever. And so eventually I got this little camera that looked like a cell phone, but it was like a waterproof camera. Because I guess when my parents bought it for me, they didn't want me to break it. So they got me a durable one. And I was making almost exact copies of Ryan Higa skits. And I was doing that for a while. And then eventually I did it for 3 years. Good thing the channel's gone. But if it was still up, you'd find some wildly cringy content of young me, 12 years old, making some very stupid videos.
Did you make a how to be ninja or how to be something?
I think I did literally how to be ninja. And I did a lot of how to be blank, because that was his his format. So I did that because I had no other really knowledge of creativity. And then eventually I got uninspired, and then the kids in the neighborhood drove me to never want to hang out with them again, and I stayed inside forever, and I had stopped making videos for a year. And I discovered this guy, Rory Kramer. He made this music video for Avicii, rest in peace. He made this music video for Days and Nights, I think it was called. But it was this really cool video where he pretty much picked up a GoPro. He lived at this lakefront house, and he filmed all this crazy, really fun, really stupid stuff he did around, compiled it together, and made this really cool compilation video of all this crazy stuff just done with a GoPro. And I was like, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen. And my brother has a GoPro that he doesn't use. So I picked it up, and I just used it, and then eventually I got my hands on a DSLR, and then I learned more and more about cinematography, got my hands on a glide cam, because that's when Rory started making more quality videos with a glide cam, so I got one, and then I learned all about that. And then through that, my parents were like, hey, you should probably audition for this film school. This was in my last 2 years of high school. And so I went to this film school, learned all kind of stuff, and was still very obsessed with what Rory was doing. If any of you would be interested, he's still doing stuff today. He works for Kanye, Justin Bieber, the Chainsmokers. Right now he's now that the tour is canceled, but he was helping filming like a small documentary for Justin Bieber's upcoming tour. So he's really successful and he's still doing really cool stuff. But he has this video series called Lake Life, and there's like 6 of them now, and they were super inspirational for me. But after doing that for a long time, I kind of got uninspired by it. Got kind of sick of it, and that's when my head kind of flipped to like abstract stuff. I was like, what can I watch? Look at abstract stuff. Then I found Jazz Davis, who is sort of Skrillex's buddy and does a lot of Skrillex's like tour videos, and he started getting into he does very abstract, very weird kind of motion graphics that he adds to the Skrillex's record label is called Owsla. I think it's OWSLA. Mm-hmm. But they have this really cool sort of branding that's this really interesting logo and doing this very interesting, colorful, wacky kind of art. And he adds that to Skrillex's videos, and he adds that to his own videos. And like a lot of his, instead of just making like a regular tour video, he'll take colors and sort of invert them or make it look like this camera and it's like monochrome, takes everything, makes it red, and just does these really weird things. And I thought that was incredible and creative, and it's sort of completely different from the stuff that I was inspired by back in the day that I was very sort of sick of. And then after that, I because watching him, I picked up After Effects, and I started doing a bunch of weird stuff and finding like the weirdest effects I could find in After Effects to distort video, distort logos, text, all that stuff. And then through that, I found the Instagram world of 3D. And then I followed Hodes, Beeple. Still another very big inspiration for me today is Peter Tarka, because now that I'm a graphic designer, he has very graphic design friendly compositions and stuff. You can add typography in it very nicely. So I'm very inspired by that type of world. And there's all these incredible people on Instagram. So I've gone from being inspired by one specific guy to be inspired by a whole community of very different kind of art and it's not a dog on any other kind of art. It's just the stuff that intrigues me and makes me very excited to do them, which is taking things and just doing left of field type of activities with a different thing. Like taking like a wireframe modder and just doing all these weird modifier stacking, like what's in Curtis's add-on that he's about to release version 6 of, which is incredible. I just watched your video for it.
By Jen.
By Jen. It's just incredible what you're doing with it, and it's sort of just in line with the type of stuff I do, like with the modifier magic he does. And so that's kind of where my style has come from, and I'm still very heavily influenced by a lot of different people. And anyone watching, don't feel bad to be influenced by someone, because everyone's influenced by someone. No one's 100% unique, but as you learn, you become more and more unique to the person you are as an artist. So it's nothing to be ashamed of.
Yeah, that's a key point actually, because I've seen some like younger or newer members of the like art community do like following tutorials and stuff. Who it's only a very small percentage of them, but they're quite defensive when people say that, hey, did you were you inspired by this guy, or did you follow this tutorial? And they're like, no, I did this. And we're like, no, it's okay. Like, it's fine to like follow other people and be inspired. People are here to help you, but that it's just something that's worth saying. Like, it's nothing to be ashamed about. This is a good thing. I mean, there's no such thing as like complete originality, really, because like we're all just living on the top of this society that's built by other people. So just roll with it,
Yeah, it's saying like there's 12 notes in this scale of music. Like every song's been written. It's just it's just original takes on things now, and nothing new under the sun, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Every project file has the same 12 nodes.
Exactly.
All the same textures over and over. Just distort it.
Yeah,
just distort it, make it different.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm currently watching a course on making materials. It's called Becoming. If you're looking for a course on materials, which everyone hates nodes because they're difficult to learn, it's called Become a Material Guru. It's on Udemy. Watch it. I've learned a lot from it. It's 12 hours. It's a 12-hour course, and I'm not even like 6 hours in, and I've learned a lot.
He's like, I think that's a guy from Blender Insight, right?
I have no idea. I've never heard him.
Yeah, I think he's that dude's really good. He's an older guy.
Yes, he has I don't know where he's from. He has an interesting accent. I don't know what accent it is.
Yeah, I don't know either, but the guy's really bright. He's really smart.
Oh yeah, it's very clearly taught videos. I mean, a 12-hour course is super rigorous, and I got my hands on it when it was on sale for $12.
Yeah,
So it's not very expensive.
I love that about Udemy. Like if you wait long enough, it's like $9. All right, mine.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever gone to a Udemy page where something's been full price.
I know. Gleb never drops his price ever.
Yeah.
So the Gleb's prices are $60. If you want it, $60.
That's still a very good price. I mean,
It's a great price.
Quite good
I mean,
price.
It's totally fair. Like it's I mean it's great. But yeah, he doesn't drop it. And there's another few guys that I've seen that never ever drop it. But yeah, most of the people opt into that, that sale stuff.
Yeah, it's quite funny. Like, there's a few companies here in the UK that have stuff like perpetually on sale, and like have a bit of an inside joke with friends. But it's like, the world's gone wrong when DHS doesn't have a sale, which is like a furniture company.
Yeah.
I think that's our rooms to go.
Probably, yeah.
I gotta ask you, Ducky, what were you saying yesterday about platform? Now that I've seen it.
Oh, I pretty much described the whole concept of how it's sort of a. We're talking about the movie Platform. How it's a commentary on
capitalism.
Yes, it's a commentary on capitalism. Did you catch that about the movie?
No, I got it. I just wanted to know what you were saying yesterday, since I deliberately.
How was the movie?
It was good, and then just turned into like Suspiria type, like everything's like red and bloody and all this.
Is it super dark? Because I looked on Netflix and the category was like something dark.
I guess it's dark. I guess it depends. A lot of cannibalism. If you don't like cannibalism, maybe don't watch.
How gory?
You see them eat each other. They literally cut off a piece and eat it.
Oh goodness gracious! I better not watch that alone in a dark room.
It's kind of like frowned upon in most cultures.
Yeah.
Almost all of them.
And maybe we should be thinking about where should we be going in the future with our careers, and what sort of avenues should we be following. Was a question, quite a morbid question in some ways, but maybe worth exploring.
Yeah, I think passive income for people who are making businesses or teaching, or I think that the world of shipping is gonna be more, because if you can't go to a store, it's got to be shipped to you, and so that sort of infrastructure might have to be strengthened and figure out how to make it reliable. Maybe the use of drones is going to be more of a common thing. I remember Domino's was trying to drone people pizzas, which I wouldn't trust.
Yeah, I don't want to be.
Like, what if a bird just hits my pizza?
I know.
There's also probably going to be more toilet paper companies. Like, there's going to be so much more toilet paper in the future. Everybody needs so much more.
Yeah,
That's really needed. I need about 700 sheets, I think, a day now.
Sorry about disconnecting then. I think this might actually be a result of the whole thing that's going on, but the whole internet just turned off for a little while. Doesn't usually happen, but it started happening more and more now that people have been home. So
yeah. I've seen a strain on the networks. I think they're going to have to. That's another thing in the future. They're going to have to increase the bandwidth massively. Especially, I think, like we were saying yesterday. Like, I think people, they're going to get used to working from home.
Yeah,
and they're going to be like, I don't know if I want to go back to the office now, because especially if it works and it's successful and people are productive, it's going to shift. Things are going to really shift. Like, I think there's still going to be employees and employers and stuff, but it's really going to shift. If this ends tomorrow or whatever, like somebody comes out, hey, I got a vaccine, it works. Look, I shot up, like, if some country says they shot, they gave out like 100,000 of these and nobody's showing any side effects. Like, okay, let's roll it out, and then it's over, and then we go back to the way we were. But if this rolls out any longer, like, I think these shifts might start happening.
Yeah, we're starting to see it. Maybe there are some countries starting to improve. I think China's starting to do a little bit better now.
Yeah.
But they're allowed to. Their government can just say, shut the door. But America's a little bit more, we like our freedom too much, so we're going to go outside.
Exactly.
Has anybody here done any or been on Second Life or anything like that? These sort of virtual.
Saw a documentary about people getting married on Second Life.
What's Second Life?
I've been on VR chat, but not Second Life.
Yeah, I've been on Second Life years ago, and I went in and I'm like, it was a bizarre group of people. It kind of reminded me of like the Dungeons and Dragons groups and stuff. And I'm like, this is weird. Like, I don't feel like I belong here. I don't know if I want to stay here. And then I turned it off.
That could be like 40% of our audience.
I know, and it's totally cool. But I'm like, I don't understand it. And maybe had I hung out longer and and kind of been adopted into that culture, it would have been cool. And maybe I was just hanging out because there's like different servers you can choose and things, and I was like, that's kind of. But I will say it was really interesting, and I thought that it really had legs to go somewhere. And then there was like these like Linden bucks or something, Linden dollars or something, where you actually had this virtual currency inside it, and it was really an interesting kind of I don't know, just kind of world. And it reminded me of like, I mean, maybe the guy got the idea for Ready Player One from something like that, because it was pretty robust.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there are businesses that, like real businesses of like 3D modelers that make assets only for this game, because there are people who trade like Linden bucks for USD. So
Yeah.
you can start a real business, and because the people who play like, I don't know, 8 hours a day minimum, there's a real market for that.
I guess there is, yeah.
Yeah,
But it definitely reminded me of those like Dungeons and Dragons groups, you know, in college, where like they had their own cultures, they had their own language, they had their own everything, and like you could learn it and like become part of the culture. But I just felt like, oh man, I got so much to learn if I hang out in here, and like I don't, it was a bizarre experience.
Yeah.
But that was years ago, and I'm sure it's matured quite a bit from there, so
Yeah,
I haven't been on in a while.
Mentioning currencies with video games, EVE Online always interests me. I don't know if any of you had ever played that EVE Online sci-fi game, big like MMO thing. You own corporations. It's also known as Spreadsheet Simulator because it's got the most complex like virtual economy in like any game ever, I'll say. But they have like the currency is ISK, as far as I remember, and you can buy these things called Plex cards, which in the modern day sort of translates to like microtransaction currency bundles. But these were like cards which you could activate in the game, which would convert into a certain amount of ISK. But the thing is that they had real world value, and they were trying to make it so that it would translate into real world currencies pretty easily. It was a bit of an ambitious idea, but it sort of worked a little bit, because I think there was a point where you could buy graphics cards with the in-game currency if you wanted. So I just always thought that was interesting. There's always been like a few like breakout companies that are trying to like connect to the virtual world with like the real world in ways. I think there's definitely going to be more of that in the future, I expect.
Yeah, like Ready Player One, you could you order pizza and it shows up. You order in the game in the simulation, and it shows up at your door, because there's still an economy outside of that. But even they exist inside of it. It was so weird, like the implementation.
Yeah.
But yeah, something like Second Life could easily become the platform for that sort of thing. It's there. I mean, the technology exists already.
And if it does happen, would you guys join it, or would you be one of the people who's like, nah, I don't touch this new age stuff?
I'd join it. I mean, if it's if it can benefit, if I can have fun and I can also benefit a business.
I mean, we'll probably all be making 3D models and assets. For it, but...
Yeah.
Yes, that'll be it's part of our world. We'll at least need to at least know about it.
Exactly. Yeah, we have to know about it. So
It's
I'll
always
probably go back in again.
Yeah, it's always interesting to see like how movies try to predict the future, and then now that we're living in a future that older movies have tried to predict, like we're not in Hovercrafts yet, but it's like interesting how we're seeing stuff that we're going to predict like that future, and at some point like our kids we're going to live in that future, and we're like, this is what actually is happening. I remember there's this in this Skrillex song, he played this clip. I don't know who it was, but I think he was a very pretty famous rock star. And he was saying in the future, music is going to be made by just one person with a room full of synthesizers. I don't think he said synthesizers, but like of boxes and different things and modules and all that. And now it's like, because Skrillex put that in the song piece, he's like, oh, that's me. Just one producer with a wall of synthesizers. Like if you want to see a really cool studio, look up Dead Mouse's studio. Yeah. It's like a wall of these analog synthesizers that most people just keep in their computer, but he loves the old style. You just put one chord to another chord and you're forming these sounds. It's interesting like how at least even like with the music prediction, like it's actually it is made by one person, at least the beat. Of course, you can't fake a voice. Porter Robinson's album where he was still singing, but it made this very kind of interesting voice. Maybe one day we'll be able to fake a really good singer. That would be pretty
Speaking
insane.
of voice synthesis, I can't say that word. Do you guys know Lyrebird? Have you heard of this company?
Yeah.
So this company, you upload like, I don't know, 10 seconds of you speaking, and already does a pretty good impression of your voice with randomly generated sentences. And I don't know if it was Adobe, but some company made something where you could like it's kind of like editing, but for voice. Curtis, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I do. They presented it at some conference. I can't remember which one, but they just had
Max.
Yeah, they had someone speaking on stage, and then it sort of transcribed what they were saying, and then they rewrote it, and then it processed, and then you could hear their voice back, and it was a lot better quality than Lyrebird, and they got a lot of backlash for it, and they decided not to make it publicly available because it's such a dangerous tool. So
for sure.
So I mean, it was really good when you heard it, like with the live demonstration. So I'm sure that Adobe, if anyone can do like proper synthesized singing, I think they're probably on the right track for it.
It's definitely on the way.
Yeah.
We've got deep fakes as well, obviously, haven't we? And people
those ones are
mimicking
so good.
Obama.
I'd say those
so
ones
forth.
are all the way there.
Yeah.
Like if they can make something better than Adele's voice, or someone amazing, humans are gone.
Yeah.
Like producers won't even need someone to sing on their track. They can just like make a completely new voice, add it to a song. I mean, I don't think the computer. We're not at a point where computer can make the art because I don't know, creativity is hard to automate. But now it'll be even fewer people as a part of the song making pipeline. That'll be very interesting to see how that unfolds in the future.
That will spawn like a whole range of new types of artists, because as soon as you give people control to create virtual voices for them, then they won't need to do like any of the actual physical effort. But we're already seeing that with like Vocaloids, the sort of anime type culture. People sing.
That's what Porter Robinson used.
Yeah, exactly. It's just sitting down making music with a fake voice. So I think that is absolutely something that's without a doubt coming like in the decade or two.
Like right now it kind of sounds corny, but once we get past like you can make it still corny, I'm sure that'll be like that. Now that'll be like the vintage, like we have the corny sound, but that's vintage.
Yeah.
But I think once we get to the part where you can make it any kind of style you want, or you can recreate riff-raff, then that would be that recreating old voices. I think there was there was a Black Mirror episode where they went inside. I forget the girl's name. She was famous. Might have been Miley Cyrus. Where they went, and I think she was playing Miley Cyrus in the episode too, where she went to some kind of coma, but the record label needed her to keep making music because she was their money machine. And so they went inside of her head and figured and like decoded what was going on there into music, and then they just kept rolling out music. But that's a very Black Mirror weird concept that could
I guess the most similar thing that actually exists right now is that Star Wars has like dead actors that they like make models of and all that. That's kind of similar, but not really, because I'm sure they like licensed. Like I'm sure she agreed to have her digital identity be whatever.
How weird would that be? Like before you die, that whoever you worked for comes to you like, hey, we kind of need you, but we know you're gonna die. So can you sign this?
How much would you need your family to get, I guess, for you to agree to this?
Oh man,
like Peter Cushing and Carrie Fisher when they recreated them, and it's a weird thing though, because it's called the uncanny valley, and you can't like the closer you get to making a digital human, the further you are away from the digital human, because you start noticing tiny little things in our just little muscle movements and twitches and things, and like the closer you get, the more you're looking for those things, and like it's just like that's why like Pixar they've never tried to do a fully realistic human being. Like they've always like stylized it in a way because they're aware of that and they know that and then you get like Industrial Light and Magic, who does try to do that, and they do really well, but it's still that little like 1% that the audience still notices, as good as it gets, and they're aware of it, but you use it in limited ways, and then it works in your film. But
there's a term called, what was it, pareidolia, something like that. It's a term for where you recognize patterns in things. So when you're recognizing faces in like random patterns, it's because our brains are hardwired to do that. And that's why like doing human faces is the most difficult thing to get right. But if you think like theoretically, if like an alien comes down and then watches it, they'll probably go, no, that looks perfectly like your human face. But
I heard comedian Peter Griffin, he was in a comedy, this animated comedy, and they were talking about how like his character that he voiced looked like him. He was like, yeah, I didn't get paid for that though. He says, in Hollywood, if you voice something and then they make the character look like you, they have to pay you more. They didn't do that for me. But I thought that was really interesting. That's why a lot of people's characters don't look like them. I mean, obviously because you're trying to design a unique character, but sometimes that might make the movie more popular. But that's a pretty interesting idea that you get paid more even if it's a characterized version of your own face. I thought it was super interesting. Have y'all watched The Mandalorian?
Yeah.
Not yet.
So y'all remember
that's
Quill? I think it was Quill, the old guy that helped out the Mandalorian.
Mm-hmm.
They made, so the voice actor for that, I forget his name, but if you look at the voice actor and you look at that character, they have different aspects of that. I don't know if it was a puppet or if it was a digital, but they made the face kind of look like him. And he's a very old actor, and my dad was watching, and he's like, kind of looks like the guy. And then he looked at it because, no wonder I thought that, because it literally looks an alien version of that human, which is incredible for design.
I was gonna ask, have you guys ever considered making a tutorial about stuff like this? Because at a point I was gonna do a deepfake tutorial, and it's super easy, but it sounds a bit unethical, so I decided not to go forward with that.
You can use my face.
Oh no, don't say that, because you're giving him permission now. Like 20 years down the line, you can pull up this footage and then do something with it.
Exactly. Yeah. Like I thought about it too, and I'm like, you know what? Like, I don't need to give the propaganda machine any more education and ammo to further erode the world. So no.
It's gotten really easy. You just have two folders, one with one person's data, one with another, and then you just type one command, and that's it nowadays.
There's the comedian Tom Segura. Well, there's this particular guy. I can't remember the Instagram account, but the guy's obsessed with I wouldn't say obsessed, but he loves the world of comedians. And so he's made all these deep fakes of classic movies and put the comedian's face on them. And then those comedians will repost those videos. And so in the world of the like really big comics, there's this world of just joking deep fakes. And it's so entertaining.
I saw one of them dancing. I'm assuming that's one of these where he put Bert, whatever his name,
Bert Kreischer,
face on like a really, really fat dude.
Yeah. This guy, that's a really funny one. So Tom Segura wanted to promote his upcoming tour, and so his best friend Bert Kreischer, to promote his tour, he did one of those like in a dance studio videos, and he's kind of a big guy, so it was a funny thing for this big guy to be doing this like choreographed dance by himself. And Tom, they have like a comedic competition going, so he's like, well, I gotta do better. So he paid he said he didn't tell us the number, but he said he can afford a car with the money that he paid for this. And so what Tom did to get Bert back, because he wanted to one-up Bert, was hired this professional choreograph crew, and also had himself dressed as, I forget this like mob person that he jokes about all the time, and then had this big thing, and at the very end he walked up to an even bigger guy compared to his friend Bert. So just like joke about Bert, how big he is. And they're both pretty big guys, so it's not like an offensive thing that they were doing. And then he deep faked Bert's face on this bigger guy, and then just like stabbed him a bunch. And then it was like this joke thing. And then to promote that video on the podcast, they got the guy's like live reaction, because he had no idea that they deep faked his face on his friend's promotion tour. And it was hilarious. So there's all these very dark ways to use deep fakes, but there's also very fun, wonderful ways to use the deepfake technology. It's hilarious.
Yeah, I'd go for the tutorial. I'd do it because it's coming, isn't it? The technology's coming, and we've got to learn to. As societies, you do. There's even like the printing press. When that first came out, it was sort of there was propaganda, and people thought everything that came from print was definitely true, and then people learned to figure out that actually it's not, and we need to kind of get past that as a society. So just do it and embrace it.
Yeah,
that's a good point.
I think we might need more or better methods of verification for information as well. Because say like if people do the whole thing of making politicians say things, you need like a really strong way of verifying whether or not that was actually true. If it gets to the point where deepfakes are indistinguishable from video footage.
Mm-hmm.
So
I heard currently there's some AI network that creates the deepfakes. There's also an AI network that is built to detect them, and every time the one that makes them gets equal, the other one surpasses, because now you have new data to verify. Yeah. But eventually we'll get pixel perfect, so I don't know how they're gonna handle that.
Well, I think it'll be from sources. Like if you get news and you want to make sure it's not some kid in his bedroom making a fake thing, we say, okay, well, that came directly from the Wall Street Journal Twitter. That would be like the best way, outside of it actually being hacked. I think that would be the best way to be like confirm information's legitimacy.
But what happens when somebody gets access to send this video from that place? Then it becomes, you will never know, ever.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, outside of it being hacked, that kind of thing, that would be the only way to really, get your news verified.
That's on the cards as well, in the sense that we're now, what is it? Was it Twitter or Facebook? I can't remember which one. They took one of Trump's tweets and they retweeted it, and then it had underneath, didn't it, saying this is basically saying it was fake news. And I was ecstatic to finally see that Twitter had taken responsibility for
awesome.
fake news.
I think it was Facebook doing that.
Was it Facebook? Yeah,
I think so. They got nailed for just being so relaxed with everything.
Yeah, I think a lot of.
So it's on the card. So we're always, and I think what's actually going to happen is, like we say, we're only going to start trusting the news outlets, and so you're only going to start trusting an official site. But yes, obviously, if they get hacked, that's a problem. But I think people, if that starts happening, then people will just see news as in it's all fake, and then they just won't believe anything. And that's.
So how do you prove anything? Like, let's say somebody robs a store. You need to have some kind of video surveillance or something.
Yeah.
Everyone believes Banksy. We'll have him be our newscaster.
Yeah.
Banksy, there you go.
I imagine that maybe in hypothetical, really future scenario where everything is interconnected via some sort of internet, and it's so easy to fake data from anywhere and from like any perspective. Maybe some kind of system where every piece of information that's ever put on the internet is cross-referenced with like every other node on the internet, like some sort of blockchain thing. Then it would be difficult to fake stuff, because then you could automatically verify, okay, well, this data is not equivalent to the data that came out of this. But the amount of information that would be sent just any day would be unbelievable. I don't know how that would work.
The book that Curtis recommended a while ago called Life 3.0, it's really good. You guys should read it. It talks about something like this, and one potential future possibility is now this is what you need to convince people to put stuff inside your brain, because now this is the only way to verify that whether stuff is real or not. And people would prefer the security of knowing what's real and what's not over the privacy concerns of having something in your brain. That was one argument for why it would happen.
We're already seeing it, because we've got all these people that are believing that the Earth is flat because they don't want to believe the information that's out there. So they've gone down this sort of conspiracy route. So we are seeing the breaking up of reality, in a sense, already.
Well, I have a conspiracy for you. We're all in quarantine because they need to replace the batteries in the birds.
Yes.
I saw that on the internet somewhere. I thought it was hilarious.
Beautiful.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, my dad always said, like, when we were at Disney, because everything's animatronic there, he said, I bet you the birds are animatronic. It's just Disney. They're so good at all this robotics tech.
But it's true, though. In psychology, there's cognitive dissonance and Dunning-Kruger, and they're not mutually exclusive, but you look at the cognitive dissonance. It's too painful to switch. If you believe something with all your heart and soul, and then you're presented with proof that you're wrong, it's too painful, and you'll find like all these other avenues to like just support your safety net, instead of just being like, oh my god, I'm wrong, because the hit to your ego is too hard. So there's some people who just can't take it, and they'll just like they'll never accept what's true right in front of them. Yeah.
You mentioned flat Earth. That always annoys me, because it's quite easy to measure the size of the Earth, pretty much. You know about like the whole stick method on a longitudinal line, where like if you have sticks of equal length and you put one on the equator and you go down the same longitudinal line and you put it elsewhere, and you get like you and your friend to measure it to measure the size of the shadows at the same time, you'll see that they're different. So you can use that to measure like the circumference of the Earth.
Yeah.
That's something that anyone could do, like just by traveling. But they're just like, oh no, that's not true.
I wonder if there's any other like geometric model that would technically satisfy all these conditions. Like shadows would distort.
They probably say something like the sun is a ball that's a certain height above the flat plane. So yeah, of course the sticks here will have different shadow lengths. But then they'll try and like find every.
That still has some like geometric inconsistencies, like the 3 right angles returning to the same spot thing. You can do. Couldn't do that on a phone. But there might be other geometries.
There will always be an exception. There will always be some excuse.
You could put people on a ship, launch them into orbit, and they'll still come back believing that the screens are fake.
Yeah.
The windows are actually just screens playing a movie.
Yep.
Like you could put them out in a spacesuit, and they'll come up with something like you're projecting the visor, you're projecting fake reality onto my visor.
Yeah, I think these points have actually been questions for for as long as human history, because how do you know you're in a dream when you're in a dream? Except for when you're lucid, necessarily.
Exactly.
So that's always been the question, and eventually, if VR gets so realistic to the point where when you're in it, it's indistinguishable from reality, then what happens then?
We need totems like an Inception.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Become the Matrix.
Yeah.
It pretty much is the Matrix. I mean, there's a lot of people think we're living in some kind of weird simulation.
Yeah.
But it's true, though. The whole scary thing is with going back, to the deep fakes and doing tutorials on deep fakes and stuff, and the ethical concern. It's like, it's a huge societal concern. Like, it really is. Like, how do you we're fracturing reality. Reality is being fractured. It's being fractured. It's completely being fractured by. I mean, I have my own theories on why it's being fractured, but it's not a conspiracy theory. I mean, all stuff's right out in the open. But it's like that just gets into stuff I don't want to talk about on a podcast, right? But it's like we need a common reality that we all believe, that we can just keep society going. And we can have we need to weed out the truth. Like, if something's not true, I don't care what political side, what spectrum, what tribe you're, whatever. But we need objective truth. An objective reality that we all believe in, or else everything falls apart.
Yeah.
And I think deep fakes are going to, unless like what CG was just saying about having the different databases that are constantly keeping track with each other. Like, we're entering a very strange, bizarre world. I think we're gonna eat Soma.
Is photo evidence still a thing you can use? Because photos have been long. You can fake a photo very easily to pixel quality, probably.
Yeah, it's the whole UFO argument thing. It's everyone wants alien evidence of alien life and UFOs with some proper footage. But even if aliens did land in the middle of Times Square or whatever, and people took photos, fake. Doesn't matter. Photo evidence is just gone now because you can fake anything.
And there are people who know that, and they play with that.
We're gonna get shut down.
It's not a conspiracy. It's all
real?
out there. It's just it just goes back to the fracturing of reality. That's all.
Yeah, what's real anymore?
That's all.
Yeah. Well, it's a good spot to end. This was great. It's interesting how we started talking about how we got into art, all the way into faking images and aliens.
I know. Blender is a key pin in that. It's a free software that lots of people are learning that they can use to do it. So it's right on with
we're helping with the issue now. We're realizing that we're enabling people to make lots of fake content in the world.
That's right.
We are.
One thing that will always be real is if you join our Patreon, you will absolutely get a bonus episode once a month along with some other stuff. So look into that.
And that is real. And that is the truth. And that is reality.
Well, thanks everybody for being here. Thank you everybody for watching. We'll see you in the next one.
Bye-bye.
Bye.